Yes, that's very clear that this meeting is being recorded. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Travel Talk Tuesday. I'm Lindsay Lucine. I'm the founder of the Vision Loss Travel Community. And today we're going to talk about navigating international air travel when you have low vision. So, today we will provide you essential information and practical strategies for successful international air travel. But don't worry, it is also going to be interesting if you are just flying in the country. Definitely also for our North American people out there that need to fly to get anywhere in this big country that they have. And we'll also cover key aspects of planning, airport procedures, in-flight management, and then strategies, and travel-related stress that also comes with it. As I said before, I am very lucky to be in good company today. I have Michael sitting next to me, and he flew internationally from the US right into Spain, where we are calling from today. So we will be talking to him very shortly, and he will be giving his experience on how everything went. But before we head over to Michael, there's a couple of things that I would love to share with you guys. So, the Vision Loss Travel Community is a group of supportive people that love to talk about travel, share their stories, and also it is a perfect community to ask questions. If you have any questions about travel, or maybe you feel stuck, you would love to travel, but you don't know where to start, or maybe you used to travel, but your vision declined and everything just seems very overwhelming for you right now. So I would say just come and join us at the Vision Loss Travel Community on Facebook, where you can read other people's experiences, but also share your stories or ask any questions that you may have concerning travel. And if you would really like to take a couple of steps forward in your journey to independence and living life at your own terms, you can always contact me on visionlosstravel@gmail.com or find me at visionlosstravel.com, our website. So feel free to contact me. Some people contact me on Facebook. That is fine too. And just feel free to reach out if you have a story to share, if you have any questions, or you're feeling stuck. I'm always happy to help. But let's move on to the interesting part here. Michael, or should I say Mike? I don't know.
Mike sounds great.
Mike sounds great. I'm already used to calling you Mike. How is your jet lag feeling currently?
I surprisingly awake, but give me another hour and I'll probably starting to zonk out again. This has only been the second day here, so it typically takes about 2 to 3 days to fully adjust.
Yes, and not only that, we learned today that in Spain, the restaurants open at 8 o'clock. Like you cannot eat sooner than 8 o'clock. So both of us, we are used to eating at 6 or even a bit sooner. So yeah, it will also be an adjustment for us this week.
Part of the excitement of going to a new country, right? You get used to their culture and you want to experience how people in that country, their preferences. This is the joy of traveling.
Exactly. So we have to adjust. We have to adjust, and we're eating at 8:30 today. Tell me a little bit more about how your flight was into Madrid, because you flew completely by yourself from the US over here. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, maybe before I do that, just giving people a sense of sort of myself. I am visually impaired. I'm blind. I have RP. So my vision now is just light sensing only. When I was younger, I can still see a little bit more sort of, people's silhouettes and so on and so forth. And over the years, my vision deteriorated to the point now I just basically see light and dark and treat myself as totally blind. And the flight was good. I'll confess, it was a little bit nervous for me to take this trip because I've flown quite a bit domestically. I've even done business travel internationally, but always to English-speaking countries. So this is the first time where I decided to travel on my own for pleasure and going to a non-English-speaking country. So I was a little worried if everything would go smoothly. But Overall, it went pretty well. There's always, tiny little surprises along the way, but these are the things that you learn to adjust to, and everything generally went quite well.
Yes, that's good. Yeah, that is one of the things that I talk about often as well, is you can never expect things to go perfectly
Mm-hmm.
because they don't. They do not go perfectly. There's always small hiccups, sometimes even bigger hiccups, and that is one of the things that you really gain from traveling as well,
That's
right?
right.
Is like really gaining the feeling of, okay, something can go wrong, but I am able to handle it and deal with
Yeah,
it.
and people are friendly. Like I'm happy to go into more details as we chat more, but you just need to learn to advocate for yourself, right? If something is not going according to plan, what I found, people at the airports are just super friendly. Just ask.
Yes, yes. I would love for you to kind of run us through the preparation that you did
Yeah.
for this trip, mainly concerning the flight that you have.
Sure. Yeah. So let me maybe start from the very beginning. I book my own flights. So I actually spend a good amount of time. I generally start when I book a flight between two destinations. I start at Google Flights. I
Yes.
find Google Flights to be the most accessible when it comes to very, very quickly looking through a bunch of possible options.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I use Google Flights as well. What I like about Google Flights is that definitely when you're flexible on dates,
Yes.
if you're flexible on dates, it can make such a big difference if you're flying today or tomorrow, because depending on how the flights go, the price can be a couple of hundreds of dollars, sometimes cheaper as well. And then if you're flexible, you just fly on the next day. Or
Also, it has a very clean interface. I'm a screen reader user.
yeah.
I use JAWS on Windows laptop, and as there's so many airlines, and you have to learn potentially different sort of UI for different airlines. Whereas Google Flights, if you want to do like quick research on just what flights are possible, very, very clean interface, fully accessible and easy to use.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's good to know as well for everyone. And when you found your flight on Google Flights, do you also book it there, or do you go to the airline
It
itself?
depends. A lot of times Google Flights will actually give you a link to the airline. But let me step back a bit to talk about this particular flight that I booked. Normally, when I fly somewhere, I prefer to do nonstop because
Yep.
that has the easiest when it comes to coordination and the least likely having surprises in the middle. But
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
this particular case, I live in California, out of the San Francisco Bay Area, and there was no nonstop flights to Madrid at this time of year. I did hear from friends that later in the summer there are direct flights, but this particular time there wasn't. So I had to make some decisions. When I was checking through Google Flights, there were a number of choices, like quite a few different airlines. I can fly basically with, for example, American through Texas. I can fly United through Newark. Some of you who are more frequent travelers, you might belong to one of various alliances like Star Alliance if you fly United, One World if you fly American. I'm a One World member. So my first thought was, hey, let me fly through One World since I already have membership with them and status with them. But it turns out that part of my consideration is if I want to fly One World American, there was very few choices where you have a single airline that I can connect through.
Yeah.
The reason that this was important to me is if you take two different airlines, depends on what connecting airport, the two airlines may be at different terminals.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I was worried how, like, I know I will get help at the airport, but I wasn't sure logistically how well it will work if they have to take me then through a terminal to a different terminal.
Yeah.
That may become like in some airports, the terminals may be connected. In other airports, you might actually have to go out of security and go through security at a different terminal. So that was one consideration, is I didn't want to take a chance of going through two different terminals. Another problem is it was giving recommendations where there were about an hour for the connection. And
Yes. Yeah.
I worry about that because if I'm getting assistance, there's a chance that the person who is going to come escort me from one gate to another may be running behind. And sometimes I am, take a while for me to deboard because they may want the other passenger to deboard first.
Yeah.
And so these kind of complication means that for a sighted traveler, they could potentially rush out of the plane and run to the next gate within half an hour or less. Because even when you have an hour between flights, in reality, you're boarding 40 minutes before the flight scheduled time. And so it means even if there's 0 delays, you have like a 15 minutes window to rush out. And I didn't want that stress.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So I was looking for something that has at least a good 2-hour layover, because I'd rather spend some time at the airport waiting for my next flight than worrying and stressed out about will I miss the flight.
Yeah, that's it. I usually say 2 to 3 hours layover. I always take a minimum of 2 hours. It's because easily you have a couple of minutes delay. And if for people that have not flown before, when you fly and you ask for assistance for your visual impairment, you will be one of the first to board the plane. So which makes it very easy because you can put your luggage away. It's very low on stress. Before everybody boards, you're already on the plane. But that also means that you are one of the last ones to go off the plane. So when you are waiting for your layover, then it can get a bit stressful, where you have to wait until everybody gets off the plane. And people take quite some time, right? To get off, they need to get their luggage and their jacket and their so you don't want that stress. That's a very big
exactly
takeaway.
And this is part of what I say. Sometimes you will have like small bumps that, for example, I could talk through like how you request assistance, but even after you request assistance, things could go wrong. The person may not immediately come to the gate, or your request may be misplaced. They could easily call for another person, so there's no problem. But those are just potential sources of delay that you want to build in, because you don't want to take a chance of missing your flight.
Yes, exactly. And like what you say as well, it's very good to also check up on them a little bit. Like, am I actually on the right gate? Like, just don't trust their word for it, because they are also human. They can make mistakes as well. And yeah, if you happen to be at the wrong gate, you want to have the time to change it. And yeah, that's really good.
So for this particular trip, I chose to book through United because there was a flight from San Francisco to Newark on United domestic, and then 2 hours and 15 minutes later, then there was a connecting flight from Newark to Madrid. And so that met my criteria of being the same terminal, being the same airline, 2 hours plus in terms of layover. And I decided that it was, and then the third consideration I mentioned in the beginning is this is the first time flying to a country that's not English speaking.
Yeah.
So I thought if I stay with a US carrier, maybe that would increase the likelihood that the person helping me at Madrid's airport would be an English speaker. Turns out that was not the case. But you sort of take your chances and figure things out the best you can. And even there, you can still have little surprises.
Yes. I think that is because the assistance really is tied to the airport.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. It's local staffing, but it turns out, once again, you worry, but once I landed, it was fine because she was super nice. She knew enough words of English to ask me basic things like, do I need to pick up my luggage? Am I meeting a friend, or does she need to take me to the taxi? So like anyone else, you muddle your way through it, and it gets the job done.
Yeah, it works out fine. You were there pretty quickly, so that was good. And okay, so run me through. You already said how you do your booking. At what time do you apply for your assistance?
There are a couple of different times you could. In fact, 3 opportunities. Sometimes at the time when you're booking, there would be basically a link says if you want to add an option for assistance. Major airlines, like when I fly Alaska, United, they will have a dialogue that says, check if you are visually impaired, check if you need a wheelchair. I know this is something that can be controversial in the community, but here's my personal opinion. My priority at the airport is to get from point A to point B the most efficient way possible.
Yeah.
So I actually generally check both the visually impaired checkbox and the wheelchair checkbox, even though I absolutely don't need a wheelchair. But at the airport, I have experience where they are more familiar with wheelchair. So if you check wheelchair, they'll definitely have somebody there waiting for the gate. I have experience on some airlines. If I just check visually impaired, they may or may not have a person waiting for you until they call for help, for somebody to assist you. And so I just check wheelchair by default. And a lot of times I prefer to fly with a hand luggage so I don't have to deal with baggage claim. And actually, it's very convenient. Even if I don't want to sit in a wheelchair, they can easily just put the luggage on the wheelchair and wheel it. But I'm also perfectly fine personally to sit in the wheelchair if that would be the quickest way for them to help me get from point A to point B.
Yeah, I've
So
also
it's a personal opinion. I know some people don't like that, but this is how I like prioritize, which is getting the job done.
Yeah, for some people it really is a sore spot a little bit.
Yes.
But I've noticed also from the perspective of the staff, for them it is easier to roll the wheelchair wherever they want it to go.
Yes.
You know, it just goes.
Yeah,
And
because if I
yeah.
hold on to the arm, I'm dragging a suitcase. I have like side swipe people or side swipe, those little ropes and stuff. I'm not sure what they're called, little posts.
Yeah,
Just because
and
you're
you're
walking fast,
zigzagging
you're
through it.
zigzagging,
Yeah.
exactly, those security lines. So I've gotten used to the point where I actually feel more efficient when I'm using a wheelchair. Then I just focus on holding on onto my documents, passing through security, getting through all the TSA checkpoints and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's a very quick way of running through all of that.
Right. So there were 3 places I mentioned. One is at a time of booking.
Yeah.
If you didn't do that, then for example, in this particular trip, I didn't do that, and then I remember after I bought a ticket. Normally, then you can log back into your itinerary. There, you can always add that you need assistance. And then, even if you forget to do that, when you go and check in at the counter, you can always request assistance at that point, and they will add it to your record. So all 3 places have worked for me quite well in the past.
Yeah, and it's also interesting the moment you arrive at the airport, even though when you check the boxes, you want to find someone
That's
of
right.
the staff, and just tell them right away as well as like, hey, I need assistance. Can you help me? And even though you're not the right person, they will still find you the right person and help you.
Actually, that's a funny story. I know there may be sometimes official places you're supposed to go to get the assistant. Since I generally just get dropped off by Uber, I have no idea most of the time at airport which door. So I just ask the Uber driver to drop me off at the door for the airline.
Yeah.
I literally then just walk straight into the door, listen for voices, bump into the first random stranger and ask where's the counter. And generally, even if they don't volunteer to walk me to the counter, they can point me at a direction, and I would just literally go in a straight line until I bump into the next person and ask where's the counter. And typically within 2 or 3 of these encounters, I'm in front of the counter, and then the staff will help me the rest of the way. So that worked really well for me, and it works all over the world. So
yeah, and then it's there. It is also handy to have your cane with you.
Yes.
Even if you still have quite some residual vision, the cane indicates
That's right.
Like I could use some assistance. Okay. And even though if you feel like you don't really need the assistance, you can do it by yourself, or you might have a sighted person with you. I would still recommend you doing so, because it is going to make the process so much smoother. Otherwise you're standing in line to get through security. Like, who wants to do that? You have that privilege to go through the security without having to wait. So
it makes a big difference. And
right?
and also pre-board. So
And
even when I
pre-board,
travel with my wife or colleagues, I always indicate that I'm visually impaired, because I'm then eligible to pre-board. And it does gives me that extra time to put the luggage away without worry about bumping to people when I have to grab the luggage and push it up to the top. So
exactly. So yeah, use that
That's right.
you when you have it. Okay, great. Is there a particular spot that you usually choose on the plane, or do you just get your spot?
I prefer aisle personally, although depends on how early you book. Like, for example, at my first leg, of the trip, there was no more aisle seat available, so I chose a window seat.
Yeah.
The main difference is in aisle seat, it's just a lot easier if you need to walk to the restroom without having to, you know, bump into your seatmates or even just like, seeing if they're paying attention to you. My main problem when I sit in the windows is I don't mind like, asking them if I can go over, but sometimes I can't tell if they're taking a nap and stuff. I
Yeah.
feel bad asking. And so, yes, when possible, I prefer aisle.
Yes, me too. Like I'm sighted. I still prefer the aisle seat because for some reason there is still a little bit of stress to ask
Yes.
a random stranger like, "May I?"
That's right.
Everybody knows I have to use the washroom, which is not a big deal, but I feel it's a form of freedom to
That's
just
right.
get up whenever I want. And I actually on my last flight coming here, I also flew from North America coming here. I had a seat right in front of the washrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So I had so much leg space.
The bulkhead aisle, yes.
Yes, that is also the aisle where they would put the babies sometimes, but I
It's a
didn't have
trade-off
it.
for me. I go 50-50 on that. The bulkhead aisle, you do get more legroom. The main downside of the bulkhead aisle is you cannot put your like backpack
Oh
under the seat
yeah,
in front of you. So you have to
that's
put it
true.
onto the bin.
Yeah,
And so sometimes I go, the hassle of having to go up and open the bin to get your backpack
yeah,
out. So sometimes I actually book the row right behind the bulkhead so that I'm still close to the restroom,
yeah.
but don't have the problem with the bulkhead. But it's 50-50. Sometimes I want that extra leg room, and other
Yeah.
times I just want to be able to stow my backpack under the seat under me so I can grab things in and out easily.
Yes, that's good. I didn't even consider that. I actually, this was the first time I had that seat, and I really enjoyed it
Mm-hmm.
because the leg space
Right.
there's not a lot of space on these planes. But yeah, you're right with the luggage, and you want to have your snacks nearby. People already know I need snacks, so I always bring snacks on the plane. I think whatever happens, if it's on your layover, if it's you're delayed on your plane, whatever happens, you just know you have food and water.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that is a very important thing. If things go wrong, you eat a snack and it's already half better than it was before.
I would say for me, the most important thing is bring a portable charger, power
Yeah.
bank, because
Yes.
I don't worry as much about having snacks on with me. I'm pretty good at being able to last many hours without having to snack, but I always worry about my iPhone running out of power because it's so important during
Yeah.
travel
It's
to have that
everything. Yeah.
assurance that in case you need to contact someone or
Yeah.
something else, most of the time on these planes, you do have USB plugs that you can charge your phone. But for example, on my first leg of the flight, the USB charging was not working at
Uh-huh.
my seat.
Yeah.
And so I was glad that I had my power bank. So because during a long flight, you do use up your power. We generally, that's how we're keeping ourselves entertained, right? Listening to a book or something
Yeah.
else. And so I would just feel that I was able to top my power back up to 80-90% when I land so that I know that, I have that peace of mind.
Yeah, and anyway, while traveling, it's good to have a power bank because you use it for navigation and just so many
Exactly.
things. Our phone is everything for us,
That's
so
right.
it's important to make sure that it's always topped up. Yeah, that's great. I'm just quickly going to interrupt and check if there are any people that currently have any questions for us. So feel free to just unmute, or if you rather put it in the chat, you can just put a question in the chat, or if you want to share your experience, has anyone traveled internationally, like flown internationally lately? Maybe you will in the near future or in the far future. Just share it with us. Or if you have any questions, feel free to just unmute and intersect in our conversation. That is absolutely allowed. And yeah, just let us know.
I can tell about my experience about
Oh,
international travel. So I'm Savois. I'm originally from Latvia, right now in Germany. But I've had not only travels in around Europe, but also flew to United States a few times. Yeah, I also prefer direct flights.
mhm.
For example, to in United States, I usually travel from some European destinations. Like this past summer, I flew to Cincinnati Airport from Paris and with Delta, and it was really awesome. I usually mark myself as blind, um, but yeah, I don't like when an assistant comes with a wheelchair, but sometimes they don't know what to do and they come with wheelchair. But usually everything is very smoothly when I'm traveling. But when I came back in August, yeah, I had like 3 hour difference between flights. But well, I don't know. Their staff didn't talk English very well, and the lady who came to pick me up to my Air Baltic flight to Riga from Paris, she came late, and she's like she didn't really know where to uh, where my plane is, and so we went 3 times to security, and
Oh,
she's
really?
looking at monitors and saying. That, oh, don't worry, your plane is late. Well, turned out that I was late to plane, but thankfully Air Baltic waited for me about half an hour. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. No, people, we are really nice. And I think this is part of the surprises, right? I talked about is the staff could sometimes make mistakes, knowing, always be able to keep track of, like, there's a couple of apps right now that are really good at keeping track of your flight, what gate's at. In preparation coming to Madrid, I loaded like Google Translate on my phone just in case. Like if if I have to, right, I'll be able to say it in English. It will at least print out the text in Spanish, and I can show the person the text. You know, it will be a little, maybe not super smooth, but you prepare for just in case. But I told that the scenario you mentioned is exactly what I was worried about. Is what happened if I couldn't communicate with the staff on the ground because they didn't speak English.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that is, I think that's also one of the main takeaways here is you also want to be able to rely on yourself as much as possible. You know you are getting assistance and it might go well most of the time, but you also want to make sure that you're prepared and have a little bit of but yeah, I actually also flew into Paris for the first time coming back to Europe here, and I found it was pretty chaotic, a chaotic airport. And it is also known a bit to France that English is not as easy, or they don't speak it as easily. So yeah, I can imagine that it can be a bit more challenging flying through
Yeah,
France.
in fact, I should mention one of the considerations was flying through Heathrow, London. And I
Yeah,
was deciding whether or not, I flew into London many times. It's a big airport.
yeah.
And I know sometimes they're a little bit understaffed. And part of the reason I chose not to do British Airways to come into Madrid, even though it's part of the One World Alliance, was that I felt like if anything sort of did not go perfectly according to plan with a connection, if it's in a US airport, I was more confident that I can quickly deal with it, versus if I was transiting through a third country like UK, there were just more things I have to potentially worry about. As you say, 99% of the time, everything goes smoothly. But part of this, at least for my personality, is just I like to try to pre-plan as many variables as I can.
Yeah. That's also something that reduces the stress a little bit.
That's right.
Is like when you're really well prepared, to make sure everything goes well, and also trying on the other side to have a bit of that flexibility, and okay, things happen, just like what Salvas just said. Everything went wrong, the staff was bringing him wrong places, and then at the end of the story, when you kind of zoom out of your day, it's like, okay, things go wrong, but at the end of it, it works out.
Yes.
Right, it will always work out, even if you would miss a flight, like they will make sure that you get on the next flight. And yeah, so I actually also missed a flight before. I flew so much, and I was so proud of myself that I've never missed a flight. So I missed a flight which was entirely my fault. I was sitting at the gate waiting for to go to the wrong destination. So I was really tired and I was waiting there, um and like I said before, like I am sighted for people that don't know me, so I literally have no excuse, right? And the moment I board to the wrong destination, they kind of noticed like, hey, you actually are going to Vancouver and not to Winnipeg, so this is not the right gate for you. And of course my flight already left, so I was like, okay, this is one of the experiences I've never had. The biggest issue that it was I was stuck on the airport for like 7 hours.
Yeah.
So it is not the most fun day, but at the end of the whole story, I have a really good story to tell about the time I was surviving in the airport. Of course, you don't want to be in this situation. I know, but life happens sometimes,
Yep.
and then you come back with a crazy story.
But I think that's the key, right? Whether you are fully sighted, visually impaired, this is just part of the joy of travel. You get interesting destinations, and you also learn to deal with the little surprises along the way.
Yes, and I actually feel also these surprises, and also when things go wrong, it builds your character.
That's right.
It really, in the beginning, a certain mishap can be a disaster, right? And I understand it could be so stressful and you could be panicking, but you make it through and everything turns out right, and you're like, okay, in the end, things will be okay.
Mhm.
The next time you're in a similar situation, like, okay, I managed that situation, I can handle this as well, and I know at the end of it things will be okay. Okay, so I will just do a little recap. I have a couple of points ready. If there are any questions or anything you guys would love to add, feel free to just jump in, just unmute or put it in the chat. I'm actually going to quickly glance over the chat. Yeah. Okay, so just feel free, guys. I'm just going to go through a couple of bullet points that I've written down to make it a little bit easier. And maybe there's a couple of things that Mike can also
Sure.
interject.
I'm happy to add details, and other people who have similar experiences, feel free to share.
Yeah.
We're all learning from each other.
That's it. That's why I love these Travel Talk Tuesdays. Like, it's not just me talking and educating everyone. There's always some intersect from other people, and we're always learning, and that's what I really love. And that's why we're here. We're here to learn together, to support each other, and to travel more, let's be honest, to do what we love. Okay, so it all starts with your pre-flight, with your planning, your booking. That is already where you want to have things going really well. I've noticed the trend in the travel industry is that we are planning our trips a little bit shorter to date. I'm also guilty of that. I'm a pretty, short by planner. But ideally, you want to book about 3 to 4 months in advance. That is just the sweet spot. You have enough time to plan everything, but also about 3 to 4 months in advance, the prices of your flights are usually the best. Like I said before, and like what Mike also does, we have the same strategy here. Is I start also with Google Flights, because it gives you all the prices of every day, which I really like. So you could be flying on a Friday, and it could be $200 more than if you would be flying on a Saturday. And then, if you're flexible on your days, why not just go on the Saturday, right? If you want to save some money. But also, it is not just about saving money. It is also about looking at what is an interesting flight for you. If you have a layover, is this a layover that you want to have? Is this a layover in a country that you want to have, or the flight with a company that you want to have? Is there enough time in between? So once you start looking for your flights 3 to 4 months in advance, you still have that flexibility to wait another week, be like, now they're not interested. And so I'm just going to check again in a couple of days. And the prices are different, right? You check the next day, the prices are different. So it's very important there. You choose whatever seat you want, but I recommend choosing an aisle seat close to the restroom to just make your life easy and less stressful. Allow about 2 to 3 hours for connecting flights. Ideally, of course, we all want a direct flight, but sometimes it is either not possible or not affordable. So 2 to 3 hours for connecting flights is comfortable. Be careful also there. Sometimes for connecting flights, depending on the country, I also had a situation there in the past. Sometimes you do also need to have an extra document.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes. Like I think UK now, if you even transit through, you need to apply.
Oh,
There.
I'm actually not sure. Yeah, if you need an
We-
ESTA to do the layover.
I thought because this ESTA is so new, it just started
Yeah,
this year. But I
it
think
just
it's
started, yeah.
important to double check.
Yes, yes, for sure. I had a situation actually in China. I had a layover in China. And I needed the visa to have this layover, but like half of the plane didn't have a visa. Nobody knew. So, and there was only an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't want to be waiting in line, getting approval
Yes.
and all that.
So we all needed to get visa. There was like 30 people needed to get a visa, and they were already telling us you're not going to get on the next flight, but we did. We did. Everything went well. So definitely also check there. If you're not sure about something and you want me to have a look for you, like feel free to reach out, guys. I'm here to help you. Then notify the airline of your visual impairment. So what Mike said, there's three moments there that you can do that. Even if you completely forgot about everything, right? The moment you arrive in the airport, you're like, hey, I need assistance, and they're gonna make sure that that you're taken care of. If you travel with a guide dog or an assistant dog, make sure that you have all the documents for that dog as well. So you want to check not only for the airline what you need to have to bring this dog on, but also for your destination, because he might need different vaccinations or other, microchip. Usually they have, but make sure that you have everything so you can bring your dog into the country as well. You want to verify your passport, your visa requirements, and also want to check if your passport is valid. Certain countries, I know flying in the US, you need to have your passport valid for at least 6 months. When coming into Europe, I think it's 3 months. So every country or every area, it is different. So you want to make sure that your passport is valid.
And I do find that actually airlines are getting more sophisticated. So for example, for this particular trip, they had me scan my passport as part of the booking process. I'm sorry, basic pre-check-in process.
Yeah.
And it was great. They reminded me, they validated the expiration dates to the point where I pretty much didn't have to pull out my passport until I'm at a gate. And they're just sort of a one more check, but they already confirmed that you have the proper documentation. So that's the nice thing. I'm finding airlines are getting much better at this.
Yes, definitely. And
even told me what visa I do or do not like for this particular
yeah.
trip. It clearly said you are a tourist, you're less than 90 days, you do not need to apply for visa, which was comforting. I did search directly on Google, but it was nice for the airline app to also say the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. How long before your flight did you do that pre-check though?
They actually, the moment that I booked the tickets, I got an email, and one of the link was saying, please go through this process.
Oh,
so
it's like a checklist that you did?
Yes, it literally there's a link that says you are doing international flight. Please click here to complete your travel documents.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So which was really nice.
Yeah, that's good. And then also, if you book 3 to 4 months in advance, you still have time to change your documents
exactly
if you
in
need
case
to.
like you miss a step to apply something.
Yeah.
And you have plenty of time. So I did it like to apply for something. There was still plenty of time.
That's great. We all love ChatGPT. I love the answers that you get, because like this style for the UK that you need, enter the EU, very recent information. So you just want one answer that you receive there. All right. So yeah, the preparation that you have to do. So you want to be aware of the changes. Like I just said, an extra document that you need in the UK is already required. I am, however, going to check because I'm not sure right now if you also need that ESTA if you have a layover. I think you don't because you're not getting out of the airport, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm going to check that for everyone. So if you're flying to the UK soon, you just send me a message and I'll make sure that I confirm that for you. Something that is handy as well is definitely when you are checking in your luggage, there's a couple of things that you can do with your check-in luggage to just make the process go a lot smoother. Have a tag, a bright color tag, or something on your luggage, or maybe you just have very flashy suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that makes your luggage easy to recognize. Not only for yourself with something tactile on it, but also if you have the assistant, it is so much easier to say, okay, my let's say my suitcase is bright pink. And there's a lot less bright pink suitcases out there than just a black Samsonite, right? So it makes it a little bit easier for other people to recognize and just pick out your luggage and help you.
And for those of us who do have black Samsonite, I'm guilty of that because it was on sale and nice and affordable.
I didn't mean anything by it.
You can also buy these like really nice bright tags that are very sturdy and hard to accidentally fall off. I love one called Tough Tag, TUFFTAAG, that I get on Amazon.com. And it just works great. They come in like super bright colors. For example, mine is bright yellow. So you can tell people, yes, I do have a black suitcase. I look like everybody else, but it has this like nice 3-4 inch, large rectangle tags that they can quickly spot to help differentiate between your suitcase and somebody else's when they're trying to help you grab the one.
Yeah. I even have an avocado tag on my my check-in luggage. So yeah, some people also put an air tag in their luggage.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah. You never know it gets lost.
And in fact, a couple of airlines now have a program. This just I think started a couple of weeks back. That if just in case for whatever reason your suitcase is temporarily misplaced, you can actually airline, and that will help them expedite. Because via AirTag is actually sometimes even more efficient than their own scanning system. So
I can
they now allow you to do that to help the airline even more quickly locate your luggage. Sometimes it might just be it already arrived at the airport, but it may have not gotten to that particular car, so they can quickly figure out, it's still sitting in the previous room, and they'll grab it and give it to you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Just let me know. Is there anybody that uses a special tag or any colored suitcase? Does anybody do that? Nobody? Maybe you'll start doing it from now on. I don't know. All right, what else do we have? You might want to create a travel document folder. So there's certain documents that I like to have on paper. You never know that your phone is glitching or you don't have internet, whatever. So I like to have both. I like to have it on my phone and I like to have it on a document. You want to keep those digital backups there. If you carry any medication, you want to keep your medication in the labeled container. So it will definitely freak out in the security when you just have a little baggie with pills or whatever. So you want to have it in the original container. Depending on certain countries, you might even need a doctor's letter to bring in any medication. That is also when they find it in your luggage, right? But now they also have things to kind of check if it is not any drugs or anything. But it helps to have a letter for certain medication. Definitely, if you're bringing in medication that might be forbidden in certain countries. Like I'm thinking, for instance, Australia is a very complicated country to bring in certain things. So that would just help and give you some more peace of mind. So again, prepare your guide dog documentation. Same thing there. Have it on paper, have it digitally. It makes things so much easier. If you're traveling to a country that does not speak a lot of English, it might help to have a couple of basic local phrases
Yes.
It also helps to have people warm up to you. It is definitely, I'm also from a European country. It is sometimes hard for us if people just start talking in their language right away without having a little warm up of like, hi, how are you doing? Do you speak English? Right? Like I feel like this is definitely a phrase that helps to learn. If you like can just say, do you speak English, please? When you get a no, you're like, oh, okay, what am I gonna do next? But anyway, you have like this warm up in the and you. How did that go for you when you arrived here in Spain and they didn't speak English?
Um, it was really interesting motion. Like when she said she didn't speak English for about 5 seconds, go oh, and then you quickly realize one, we still communicated, and two, there are people around you, like other
Mhm.
passengers. The number of people who speak English, like as friends remind me, English is the most popular language.
It is, yeah.
So even when we were walking through the airport, when she was assisting me, another passenger came by and was teasing, saying, "Oh, you're such a lucky guy. You have a beautiful lady helping you out." Just to make both of us feel comfortable and stuff. And I knew that if I really needed some help and not able to communicate, somebody most likely would have stepped in who knew
Exactly,
English.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I've had that multiple times where because I am trying, like now you've heard it, I'm trying to speak Spanish. It is terrible. And then I've also had people sometimes helping me out. Definitely if it's something complicated that you have to do, so you don't know, you can't manage with basic phrases, then people are just so helpful and they just come and help you out. And I've also noticed when they do speak a little bit of English or do speak a little bit of a language that you really want to simplify completely your language. So you want to just use the main words that you need to make clear that what you want, and you want to speak very slowly as well. And it really helps. It really helps.
Mhm.
And then even if they do it back in Spanish or in another language, it helps you a lot. So you also want to secure some local currency. You want to make sure that you've let your bank know that you're traveling internationally, because sometimes it can freak them out. If your bank is not set for, let's say, withdrawing money in Europe and you're from the US, it can freak
yeah, it's
your
fraud. They
thing
might
out.
think
Yeah.
it's fraud.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So it would
it's
block things, then you
that's
need to
right.
call them. It could be a bit of a hassle. Maybe think about travel insurance, make sure that you're insured. That is also going to give you, again, that peace of mind, less stress. And we want to, we're traveling. We want to keep this as stressless as possible. And then have some assistive technology. There are some apps. We've done a Travel Talk Tuesday solely about apps. So if you're curious about what apps you can use, you can go and check that out on our YouTube page. But I've also noticed something really cool that you have been using and you've been trying now.
Yes.
So just tell us how you have been doing this with
Sure.
the
I've been
combination.
using the Meta glasses. And so the Meta Ray-Ban, people may have seen on Facebook. It's a lot of it's being embraced by the blind community, even though it was not designed for the blind community. Uh, but people who are visually impaired have found to be very useful. It's able to, for example, connect to Be My Eyes. So in addition to be able to like snap a photo where it can describe things to you, if you need to call a volunteer, they can look through the camera, through your glasses. One of the neatest feature that's I just tested out is they call live translation, and
Yeah.
it actually works. Where I set it to translate automatically from Spanish to English. So when the person in front of me speaks Spanish, like within about a second, it will start translating into English. And it's not foolproof, but it gave me that extra confidence, and it was kind of neat when my the assistant was mumbling to herself, but actually knew what she was talking about, and that gave me that extra peace of mind that I'm getting through to her. So
Yeah.
it works surprisingly well.
Yeah.
And as you say, there's lots of, technology keep on advancing. And I think this is great. Like for us, taking advantage of these technology, just give that extra peace of mind.
Yes, exactly. Definitely the Be My Eyes, I think, is a really good app. If you do not have tried it yet, you might want to give it a try, because it will really make your life a lot easier. You can use it in so many different
Mhm.
stages of life. And exactly what Mike just said, even if the AI, so it is an AI system, so it keeps learning and advancing as well. Even if the AI cannot help you out, there is a button on it, and you call a volunteer.
That's right.
So these are people. I'm also one of the volunteers. I have this app, and it happens my phone rings, and whoever picks up first is going to be your volunteer for that moment. And with your camera of your phone,
Yep.
or I'm not sure about the meta glasses.
Well, it worked for both.
Yeah.
That's great. But if you don't have meta glasses, it works just fine with
Yeah.
your phone camera.
Yeah, with your phone camera, you can ask any question, like any question you have. If you know, you can just ask them to help
Yeah,
you out.
I've used it, for example, in a hotel room. If I need to set the thermostat, I've used it Be My Eye. Just ask a volunteer to help me like press the right buttons so that it's a comfortable 72 degrees.
Yes, and you know what? You're making somebody's day as well. Like they're feeling good about themselves. They were able to help
yes.
you, and
they were super excited to get a volunteer call.
Right.
It turns out that there's so many more volunteers than blind users. So
Yeah.
the biggest gripe is volunteers saying, "Hey, I signed up for volunteer. I haven't got any calls lately.
Yeah.
Why?"
Yeah, I haven't had a call in months now. I
That's
think
right.
about
They
it.
got a lot of volunteer, which
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm so happy with that. Okay. Then your airport navigation, asking for assistance. Again, if you want to have a stress-free time, I would say arrive about 3 hours early. Yes, you can, I'm also pretty bad at that. I must admit, the more I travel, the shorter that time gets.
That's right.
And I actually almost missed a flight in Canada not that long ago. So and it was stressful, right? So you're kind of punishing yourself. So go early. It is better to sit there and sip on a coffee and, go over Facebook while you're waiting and comfortable than if you're rushing because your Uber is in traffic or whatever is happening, right? You forgot something at home and you all of a sudden need to go back and go get it. This is not really what you want. So just have time. Once you arrive, like we said, you're going to locate the assistance desk. If you have a family member dropping you off or a sighted person traveling with you, it makes it easier, of course. But like Mike, he makes it work, and definitely also when you have your cane with you, it happens sometimes you arrive at the airport and people already come towards you and ask if you need any help.
If not, don't hesitate to just ask a stranger. People at airport generally are very friendly, whether it's professional staff or just fellow travelers, right? They all know they are to sort of help you get to the place you need to get to.
Yes.
So I've gone through many airports, and each time I've found the kindness of strangers to be very heartwarming.
Yeah, that's good. A thing that I usually also say is, so what happens with your assistants is they are going to take you through security and they're going to drop you off at the right gate. But usually you're kind of left there. So between the security and going to the gate, that is the moment you want to ask your assistant, like, hey, could we quickly stop at the washroom, please? Could I just purchase a water bottle or some, a snack, or could I just fill up my water bottle? So that is like between the security and getting to the gate. That is when you want to do stuff, because once you're at the gate, you're usually left there until
typically, since I do get a little bit early, as you suggested, I ask them if there's a chair near where the agent would be, because then I know that when the time to, like when I hear the pre-board announcement, worst scenario, if the agent doesn't realize I'm waiting for them, I can immediately stand up with my cane and I'm in their line of sight. Or I can even just walk forward because I have a sense where the counter is.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Usually also they have special seats assigned for people that are
sometimes they do as well.
Right in front there.
Yes. Yeah. So just ask. I think that's the key, right?
Exactly.
Ask your assistant for those things, and they're helpful.
Yeah, that's good. You also want to prepare for your flight. Definitely, if you have an international flight, that is not a 2-hour flight. Like it is a long flight. So you want to prepare yourself. So whatever you need, a neck pillow, headphones are always easy to have, like good to have noise canceling headphones or AirPods.
Yeah.
I I actually always bring slippers on the plane.
Ah,
I'm that type of person. Yes, I know. So I like to have my slippers for long flights because first of all, you don't want to be stuck in your shoes for 10 hours straight. And then you kind of also don't want to be walking around on your socks because it's kind of gross. So I just love my airport slippers, my airplane slippers. So yeah, I usually take that. You want to have your phone or your devices prepared, like what you said as well, is having something to charge them, a power bank. But you also want to be prepared. Sometimes the screens don't work, or there aren't any screens, or you want to have stuff on your devices, so it is handy for you to
yeah. In
listen
fact,
to
I can
things.
say the screen is pretty much never accessible, so
It
I
is,
never
yeah.
depend on that. I always just entertain myself on my own phone.
Yeah, and it's good to have. um Yeah, I think that is the main thing for in-flight considerations. Oh, there is one thing that I like to share as well. Definitely, if you are more on the stressy side for flying and you feel a bit overwhelmed and a bit stressed out or anxious to fly, you actually want to find coping mechanisms before your flight, weeks, months before your flight. Is it listening to a book? Is it doing some meditation? Is it doing some breathing exercises? Don't learn those skills to just use on your plane. You want to practice a weekly, daily, ideally. I know it's not easy to really master calming your nerves down because it's a skill. I know people sometimes classify themselves like I'm an anxious person, or I get easily stressed, and of course it is a characteristic of getting easily stressed or getting anxious, but there are skills that you can learn on how to cope with them, and that is different for every person. So you really want to find out what it is for you on how to cope with it. Like I said, it could be breathing exercises and having listening to like a guided breathing breath work there. And then on the moment when you feel, for instance, like takeoff is a little bit stressful or landing is a little bit stressful, if you then have your noise canceling headphones and you can put that on and you can do your breathing or your meditation, it can really help you bring that heart rate down. Is there something that you do to reduce your stress, Mike?
Yeah, typically I may be listening to music or a book. I since I'm a fairly frequent flyer, I'm pretty used to. But still, even for me, sometimes if there's a bit of turbulence, you can
Yeah.
feel a little bit nervous. Or I mean, obviously with stuff going on in the news right now, sometimes people can feel a little bit more anxious. But you just remind yourself, like, there's nothing safer than air flights.
It's true. Yeah.
So just sometimes you have to just remind yourself logically, like, this is extremely safe compared to jumping, getting into a car and
Yeah.
driving around, right? So
Or just being in traffic as a
that's right.
pedestrian as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It was actually funny. A friend of mine, right before I got on my flight in Canada, there was something going on right before. And my friend said, "Oh, you know what? That's good for the odds." Um, because only one plane and God knows how many, has issues. So it's good for the odds that there was an issue with a plane just last week. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, those are the main things. I don't know, Mike, if you have anything that you would like to share.
No, I think we cover a lot of sort of interesting point. I think ultimately out there, I can speak from my own experience, right? Anytime we do something new, there's almost always some amount of fear. Even for this trip, I'm both excited to come to Spain, but it took me a little while to talk myself into it. And I think ultimately, like everything else, right? The best way to overcome these fears is just go to it, right? Once now I can laugh about the things I was worried about because I got here, and yes, some of the little things I have to overcome, but then you realize, like, oh no, it was no big deal compared to all the things I was worried about.
Yeah. That's so good to share. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And
thank you for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be on this show and thrilled to have a chance to come visit Spain.
Yes, yes, it has been so exciting. Is there anybody else that has any questions? Let us know. We're here right now for you guys to answer any questions that you have. So you might as well use the opportunity. Like I said before, you can either unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat. If there are certain questions and you don't like to share it right now in group, feel free to email me. You can email me at any time, this visionlosttravel@gmail.com. I must admit, I am not constantly on my emails every day. So if you want to contact me quickly, the easier way is to find me on Facebook. So Lindsay Lucine, my name should be kind of all over the place. So find me on Facebook, send me a message there, and usually I reply right away because I get a notification for that and I don't for emails. Otherwise, my phone is just constantly going off. And, we're traveling, so we want to enjoy that. So feel free to reach out. If you are not on our Facebook page yet, feel free to go over to the Vision Lost Travel community, become a member. Make sure to just fill in any question, or definitely make sure to um, like apply the rules. So agree with the rules so that you were let in. And yeah, I would like to thank all of you for being here today. It was great. I'm glad this worked out all the way from Spain. Next month on Travel Tuesday, we are going to have another episode. I did not decide on the theme yet. So if you have anything that you would like to know more about, if it is a destination, if it is a type of travel, like we've already covered, cruises, we've covered apps, solo travel. Feel free, if there is something you would like to know more about, let me know, because then I go in research mode. I make sure that you know everything you need to know. And often I also, well, I always try to get a speaker on. So somebody that knows a lot about the field. It could be somebody visually impaired, but it also could be um, somebody that knows more about the destination or knows more about cruises, for instance, to really give you the opportunity to ask the right questions and get the right information. Also, if you feel that you are stuck, you love to travel, you're listening to all the videos and everything online, but you still feel like you cannot take that first step, I would really like for you to contact me because I can help you. I also do private coaching, which is completely online, and group coaching. So feel free to reach out because it is, traveling, I must admit, it is addictive. So when you start it, there's no ending it anymore, but it really helps your life. It helps create your personality. It expands your horizon. It gets you out of your comfort zone and really, it's just really wonderful. And it will help in your personal life, in your professional life. And, we're only here for a short time. We need to enjoy it. And there is so much more that you can do than you think. There's so much more possible than you think right now. The only thing between you being stuck right now and you traveling is actually knowing what is possible for me and what skills do I need to learn. And we just learn you those skills and you can travel. So I would say reach out to other people in the community, don't sit still. You get this. And yeah, and hopefully see you all again next month. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here. Thank you all for listening and being here also and sharing your experiences with us. And I'm just going to end it with that.